All right, we're back. Good morning, guys. Good morning, good morning. How is everybody? Audio check, quality check. Hopefully everything is good. We are live. Welcome in. Welcome. Busy Bee, welcome in. Xavier, Tyron, Carlitos, James the Builder, Love Family Heritage. Welcome, guys. Welcome in, everybody. Hopefully everybody is ready for this Friday morning. Welcome. A lot to go over this morning. I wasn't here yesterday. I was not here yesterday's session. Rav was connected to the Wi-Fi downstairs at Wendy's. He had the Wendy's Wi-Fi yesterday. He forgot to disconnect from that. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. How's my Wi-Fi? It wasn't my Wi-Fi, guys. You guys know it was not my Wi-Fi. It was that was definitely his Wi-Fi. But we are here. That's all that matters. You need some Wednesdays so you can stop sleeping on the couch. Yes, let's look for it. Let's see if we can find something. Yesterday's session, a little bit of a choppy session, but I mean, it wasn't necessarily bad. It was just sort of bound up, right? We'll talk about that yesterday. We'll sort of go over the price action yesterday's session. We're going to talk about what happened yesterday. Okay, the highs and the lows created on SPY were important, right? We stayed in range. We're going to talk about the QQQ, also a little bit weaker, but it is also maintaining some levels, right? We have a very key level here at 566 today on the QQQ, and this is probably the most important level today's session here on the market, right? It's just simply 566 on the Qs, and we are going to discuss this today, right? Is there a potential upside breakout trade on Friday that occurs, or do we see the breakdown back under our Thursday's lows for downside? So that's the question today is basically just trading with previous session highs and lows. That's all we're doing today, right? All we're doing today is just trading with previous session highs and lows across the market, right? Particularly on SPY and on the QQQ. We are also going to talk about the other names today. Of course, we're going to talk about Amazon. Amazon yesterday was money, right? This was a beautiful picture perfect break and retest. If you missed the opening bell breakout yesterday on Amazon, the opening bell breakout on Amazon 9:34 in the morning, which I did, I wasn't ready for it, right? Market ripped higher, and if you weren't prepped and ready at 9:30 in the morning for Amazon breaking 230, because I wasn't, then you didn't take the Amazon 230, okay? Amazon broke out 230, ripped higher. It pulled back to demand here, and it gave you possibly the best possible secondary entry of the day. Amazon 230 was it. And that was the only trade I took yesterday. I made a few $100 on Amazon, a little more than that, but it was still a good trade on Amazon. Nothing crazy, but this was still a solid cash flow yesterday. And we'll talk about Amazon today. What can we do in Amazon going into our Friday morning session? Okay, we're going to go over Apple. We'll talk about the Apple breakout potential today. Apple, a little bit of some strength yesterday, but it's still under some key levels. And the key level that we're going to talk about today, of course, is that 216. Again, it's sort of similar to what we were talking about on SPY. It's simply just going to be the previous session high. So Apple 216, we'll talk about that in a minute. We'll go over Tesla. Tesla rebalancing higher, right? We saw a little bit of some failures yesterday into 300, but it's sort of retracing. We'll talk about where Tesla has to go. We'll go over NVDA. We'll go over AMD. We'll go over the SMH. SMH looks interesting here. SMH is a slowing down into supply. Okay, and the question is, does SMH hold up? Because if it does hold up, that's what's going to be what sort of maintains the market higher. So let's dive into it, guys. Let's not hesitate. Let's go right into our data today, and then we'll dive back into our other charts. Okay, so this morning session, you guys are already seeing a series of big names reporting. Yesterday, you had AAL in the pre-market. You have AAL, which was affecting your airline stocks. Wednesday session, we had Tesla, we had Google, we had IBM, right? We had some big names reporting on our Wednesday session. Of course, I was not here Thursday pre-market with you guys, so I'm going to assume that you guys haven't gone over Tesla yet, but I'm going to go over Tesla with the assumption that you haven't. Of course, you probably have with Rav yesterday, but I'll go over it, okay? Google, of course, reported, AAL, Nokia, nothing crazy, Southwest Airlines. You also had this morning, or really yesterday after hours, Intel, INTC. And INTC is actually down. It's down quite a bit. And it sort of gave up a lot of the upside that we've been seeing the past few weeks. So INTC a little bit shot down. That's impacting semis. We'll take a look at INTC today and see if there's any potential trade in INTC. And even if there is no trade in INTC, of course, INTC is going to impact our semis, right? So we are going to look at that and see what's going on there. In terms of our on the economic side today, there is nothing important. Okay, we had durable goods at 8:30. That's it. We are free and clear of economic data. That is it. Diving into next week. Next week's economic. This is important for a second. Okay, next week starts with the 28th on Monday. We have no data selected. There's no data at all. No data scheduled. Tuesday session, routine data. Wednesday session. FOMC, interest rate decision, and GDP. Okay, there is going to be a lot of volatility on Wednesday session. So this weekend, do whatever you have to do to prepare for next week. That requires that you sleep a few extra hours on Saturday morning or on Sunday morning. If that requires you go to the gym on Sunday, whatever it is that you do, be ready for Wednesday, be ready for next week. It's going to be a very volatile week. Today's session, let's see what we can get, right? But next week, of course, is going to be more important than anything else, right? Thursday, we have PCE, core PCE, PMI, and then on Friday, we have a slew of job data. Next week is going to be incredibly important, starting off with Tuesday all the way to Friday. It's going to be jam-packed, okay? That's it, right? We're done. We are now going to talk about our charts. We're going to dive into everything. Joshua, you are a gentleman, man. Thank you very much. Yes, I will go over meta, of course. Thank you, Joshua, for always supporting the stream. Okay, so let's dive into it. Yesterday's session on the S&P. What happened yesterday? Okay, I'm going to tell you what happened yesterday on the S&P. This is what happened yesterday. Ready for this? Nothing. Nothing happened yesterday. That's what happened yesterday. Nothing happened. We simply just retained our close price, 633.50. We moved higher back into 636, and we just sort of stayed in range all day. Now, there were some potential trades in the S&P yesterday, okay? Thankfully, I didn't do it. I didn't really want to go crazy yesterday and SPY, and I'm happy I didn't because it would have been a little bit of a choppier session. But there were some opportunities, right? You saw some 635 breakouts, right? 635 breakout resulted in some upside in the market, but the market maintained mostly in range. Nothing really happened yesterday. It was sort of just a little bit of upside move, rebalance, upside move, rebalance, and we stayed at the mean, right? You have your extreme lows, your extreme highs, and we sort of rebalanced to the mean almost every single time, right? The average price yesterday was probably 635. And you're going to see we opened around 635 and we closed around 635, right? So yesterday's session was a pure consolidation chop day. That's really what it was, right? So if you had a choppy session yesterday, well, of course you did, because that's what it was, right? Yesterday was just a choppy session. Now, today on the SPY, the levels are more important or equally important than they always are, right? I don't know where I was going there, but they're always important, right? They're equally important than they always are, okay? So today's session on the S&P, 636, big level. That's it. That's all we have. And then 633.50, big demand below. That's it. So if you're trading today's session, you want to see upside today. You want to see us break and hold above 636 for more upside in the market. And again, a new PDM, price discovery mode move, right? This is what you want to see for the market to sort of push out highs, right? That would be the best case scenario for longs. We go higher, market's happy, we rip, okay? Now, in order for this to happen, you'd have to see a lot of things occur. You'd have to see semis wake up because semis are weak. Yesterday, you saw some weakness in semis, a little bit of slowdown in semis. And this morning, you were seeing names like INTC, right? INTC, Intel, INTC, a little bit down, right? And that's, of course, impacting your SMH sector. And obviously, that's causing a little bit of some wonkiness on SPY. But today's session, again, repeating myself here, you want to see that 636 clear. That happens, PDM move, right? Next thing that could happen is we just pull back to our previous day low, which is 633.5. That again is demand below. Be careful of demand below. That's where we can see some bounces. Again, big demand below. If we lose 633.50, this level right here, I'll make it red so we can all see it. If we lose the red level, we should move back down to 631.5, which is our next big support zone. And again, that would be a bounce area for me today, right? So if we somehow do this, if we somehow fail lower today on the S&P and sell off aggressively, big down day, semis are selling, market selling, right? I would go long there. That's it, right? So for me, I'm mostly watching for demand bounces, 631.50. I'd be watching to see, can 633.5 maintain? If it maintains, long spot there. And I'd also look to see, can we hold above 636 for another long spot? So 3 different long ideas today in SPY. Again, it's kind of all over the place, but that's what I would do, right? Previous session lows for longs, the major demand below 631.5. Again, the Monday's highs over here. You can see Monday's highs. My face is blocking it a little bit, but you can see that the Monday's highs level is right there. That's where we can look for some long entries. That's it. That's all we have today in SPY. Now, for shorts, if you are short, the short that I'd be watching would simply just be back under this level here. If you lost 633.50, that would be a short trigger in the market. And you could, of course, see that 631.5, which would be your demand zone below. And of course, that would be the best possible short entry today. So again, really today's session is based upon how we respond to 633.50. If we are above 633.50, we are bullish. If we are below it, then there is some downside potential into 631.5. That's all we have today here on the SPY chart. On the ES chart, I'll make some adjustments here for a second. We got to make some adjustments here. We first must add in our previous session highs, which is around 640, around 64.20 here on the ES chart. Let's just round it up for a second. 64.20 there on ES. Our demand below is 63.92, right? And if you zoom into it for a second, you're also going to see there is a lot of reactions coming in around this. This could work for me. A lot of reactions coming in around the 6,400. So you can see there was some reactionary moves here off 6,400. So this is interesting because you don't really have the same level here in SPY's chart. SPY's chart, you really have 63.91. But in the ES chart, you do have some relevancy here at 6,400 ES. So if you are watching for longs today, right? Again, what I'd be watching for is I'd be watching to see, can we set up some longs back at this demand here, which would be this zone over here. If we hold that level, that's clearly a long spot, right? So if we see us fade today back into our demand zone below, where's my draw tool? Where's my draw tool? Back into my demand zone below, okay? Back into 6,400 to 63.92, an $8 zone here. You could set up some longs here for upside. That's it, right? And if you lose 63.92, then some downside back into 63.75, which of course is my main bounce area today. And I'd be looking for longs there as well. So that's what it is today, right? Big demand below 63.75, secondary demand here 63.92 to 6,400 ES, and then supply above here at 64.20, 64.20, and that is all we have today here on the ES chart, okay? On the QQQ, sometimes I forget that I'm yelling. I don't have to yell. I don't know why I'm yelling. I have this new, look at this, ready? Bam. We have a mic mount here, so I no longer have to yell. My mic before was like way far away. So if you guys hear that I'm yelling, make sure you let me know that you don't need to be yelled at, because you guys don't need to be yelled at, right? So my mic is close enough for me just to talk normally, okay? On the SPY chart, QQQ chart, the levels this morning is simply 566. Okay, this is the most important level. If we can clear above 566 today, this is where I would expect a beautiful break and retest trade. Okay, look for a break and retest above our previous all-time highs for long-based moves. Right, that's what I'd be watching for today's session. 566 breakout today is a top watch today in Qs. If it does break out, obviously sustained upside. Right. Again, if you're asking me, Brett, where do we go if we break 566? I don't know. I have no clue. I have no idea where we go. Okay. The reason why is because we don't have any levels above us here. Okay. Above 566 would be a new all-time high on the Qs. Therefore, the level that we are going to is simply just going to be question mark. Okay. I would argue we probably go to the next strike price. The next strike price on the Qs, the next strike price on 0DTE Qs. I'm just looking at my Thinkorswim for a second here. Is I think it's probably just gonna be 567, but I want to look at it and confirm. The next strike price, yeah, it's just 567, increments of $1, right? So if we do break above 566, expect us to move back into 567. Again, it's kind of just forecasting there a little bit, but that's where I'd expect us to move back into. Okay, 566 breaks, upside. Now, Our demand below on the Qs is around this 564 area, right? That's where we developed some holds yesterday, okay? 564 was our Friday's highs. It was our hold spot on Monday. It was where we opened at on Tuesday before the big downside that came in on Tuesday. And that's where we're opening at. That's where we sold off into on Thursday morning. We retained 564. So I think the clear thing to watch out for today as well is, are we holding above 564? Because if we are holding above this 564 today, then you could expect a little bit of this type of action, right? If you see a little bit of this today, that's your best possible long entry. If you see us fail below, this is important. If you see us fail below this low right here, the lows of Thursday's session, then I think that we sell off back down into these lows here, back down into this low, back down into these lows over here. That's where we sell off into this yellow line right there. So again, longs are really valid. Longs are really only valid today on the Qs if we are above this Thursday low, right? If we are above our Thursday's low, our previous session low, we are looking for longs. We're happy campers. We're looking for this type of action. We're looking for this type of action, right? And that's it. That's all we're looking for today, right? Just look at the levels yesterday. Look at the reactions yesterday back at demand. Demand reactions, supply above, but mostly we maintain levels. So today's session, let's see what we can do. But again, if we break down under this low here, Thursday's low, then that's what expect some more selling pressure into our levels. Okay. The BW James show. Thank you very much, BW. Do we use the 15-minute orb strategy? The break and retest be taking a while to happen sometimes. The orb strategy is simply still just a break and retest, right? If you want to like a quick 5-second tutorial right here on orb, what is the orb strategy? The orb strategy is just coming into the market and marking out the 15-minute session high and low. Okay, so if you just did that yesterday with the 15-minute orb, right? If you took the 15-minute orb here, you had a low here, you had a low here, you would have went short here this candle and got stomped on your head, right? By some like WWE fighter. Okay, you do not want to be stomped in your head right like that, and you did, right? So orb did not work yesterday, right? If you had the orb yesterday, you would have shorted into that 10-15 candle and gotten stomped at, right? If you did it on Wednesday session, you would have went here, you would have went short into this candle over there and got one candle down and stomped again. If you did it over here, you won. So right now we're 1 out of 3. You're 1 out of 3 right now. If you continue on, if you did it over here, okay, bam, bam, okay, so now you're 2 out of 4. So you're 50% win rate already here on the SPY chart or QQQ chart using orb. If you continue on with it, right, you got stomped over here, so you lost and you won over here. The general idea that I'm trying to say to you is it's random, right? Orb strategy is not really good on its own. You want to use and incorporate levels into your orb strategy. That's what you're doing, right? So if you want to use orb through a key level, and that's what will be more effective. Because right now, on its own, it's probably going to be something around a 50% win rate. If you're going to trade effectively, right, use levels incorporated with an orb. For example, the best possible example of that is going to be this right here. Look at the example here on Monday session. Okay, do you see we had a level here at 564? You see it was simply just the Friday's highs. Once we broke above the 15-minute orb and the level, then we got the sustained rally back into 566. So if you're trading orb, you need to know levels, right? There are probably, out of the 1,000 people in this chat right now, in the YouTube right now live, I'm going to guess probably 300 of you guys trade orb strategies, right? But as you guys know, orb on its own is not effective. Orb incorporated with levels will be far more effective and a far superior strategy. Okay, that's what you should know, right? So that's all I'm saying here. So moving on, I'm not here to teach you guys. That's probably annoying, I know. I should just move on to charts. So on the NQ chart, the level on the NQ chart we're watching today is simply the same thing here on QQQ. It is simply the highs of our previous session, 23,440, and the lows, you can see somewhere around that 23,300, right? So if you're looking for trades today here on the NQ chart, it's simply just going to be either this or it's going to be either this. That's what it is, right? Looking for breakouts above highs or breakdown below lows. If we get back below 23,300, I think we move back down to 23.1, which is our big demand zone below. That's our golden spot, the golden zone back down below. Okay, so that's what it is, guys. Let's move on. I want to talk about our individual tickers today because that's where I think we'll get some value. I don't know if we're going to have value today on SPY. I just don't know. We'll see if we do. I hope we do. You know, we traded a lot of SPY on We traded a lot of SPY on Wednesday session. Remember Wednesday session? I mean, we have to talk our shit a little bit here, right? Wednesday session, we came in Wednesday pre-market and we said, what did we say Wednesday session? We said long back into session highs of the previous, right? We did that on Wednesday. We longed it, got some upside. We longed it, got some upside. We longed it, got some upside. So on Wednesday session, it worked, right? Now today's session on this beautiful Friday morning, it's going to be about, it's been very simple recently. It's just been about trading with the session highs and the session lows of the previous, right? If we can break above it, upside. If we break below it, downside. It's all it is today, okay? Moving on. Let's go over a big one today. Let's go over Amazon. So on the Amazon chart, and by the way, guys, we have, I'm going to refresh here. We have 950 people here this morning. And out of the 950 people, we have 319 likes, which is very bad. Please, let's get the like count up, right? Let's move on. Let's sort of, we should be up at 500 every single day. I mean, we should at least be hitting 50% of our mark. Okay, so let's move on. On the Amazon chart, Amazon, I want to do a little reset here. Let's remove some of my levels here and let's talk about the big levels that are important. Okay, so yesterday's session on Amazon, you saw a beautiful break and hold above 230. So at the gate, at the open, at 9:30 in the morning, beautiful breakout above that 230 level, which was probably the best possible break and retest, right? And if you guys are wondering, why do we trade break and retest? Because break and retest happens all the time, right? Break and retest is just levels, right? So this is just levels. Beautiful break above 230, right? Sustained rally after that. You pull back to 230 again, and what do you do at 230? We hold 230, right? And this is where the best possible long entry was, again, the second best possible entry, right? And we sort of moved back into highs again off that 230. Now, today's session here on Amazon, if I'm watching for anything today, it's going to be a simple demand bounce here at 230. That's all I'm watching today. Can we hold 230 today? If we do, watch for 230 for longs. Watch 230 for longs, watch 230 for longs. That's all I'm watching today's session, okay? The thing you have to understand at Amazon, right, is Amazon may hold 234 because if it does hold 234, if it does break 234 today, then you would expect us to move higher back into these highs over here, back into 241, 240, really 240 and change, right? But I don't like trading Amazon like that. Amazon is a stock that moves in ebbs and flows, right? Big sort of excitement period higher, right? And then it retraces back to its norm, it retraces back to its demand zone, and then finds demand. Big exciting move higher, right? Now, Amazon right now is doing your big excitement move higher. What I would expect here in Amazon is a pullback to my demand zone below here, 230 for a long entry. That's it. That's all I'm watching today here in Amazon is 230 demand bounces, right? Apple. On the Apple chart, Apple has been consolidating for a while here. I think it's incredibly important to understand here that at Apple's chart, it's going to make a big move soon. We just don't know which direction it's going to do it, okay? We have a big supply here at 216. That's pent up supply. We have a big demand below here, which of course you guys know is 212. At some point, and what I'll do is I'll make it cleaner. I'll just extend the zone over. So the zone that we had from previous, we're extending it over. And we know that at this point, because Apple has been in this sort of consolidated state here for a while, we need to see us clear above 216 for upside. Okay. If you zoom out for a second in the 1 hour or even the 4 hour time frame, you're going to see that the next big level above 216 is back at these lows here, 218, and above 218 is back into 225. So if Apple does, and this is interesting because you look at all these charts, and all these charts are trading at all-time highs, but Apple's not. Apple's far from all-time highs. If Apple can break and hold above 216 today, right, this is going to be a very, very beautiful trade that we can watch for long-side trades back in 218. So watching that today, keep it in the back burner, right? I know I've been saying this for a while, so I probably sound like a broken record, right? But we have to set alerts here, right? The alerts must be set because if this does clear 216, you could look for, of course, the beautiful breakout, retest, pullback long entry, upside trade, okay? Watching Apple, 216 breakout. NVDA. Let's do chips. So on the NVIDIA chart yesterday, you saw us, I mean, it's not clean to me, really not clean. And this is part of the reason why I had a hard time, looking for a lot of trades yesterday. It's just simply choppy, right? We held 171 yesterday on NVIDIA. We ripped higher back at 173, reclaimed 173, but we sort of found some resistance here at 174. Okay, 174 is the previous all-time highs here in NVIDIA. Now, in order for some more upside to come in here in NVIDIA, you need to see us obviously clear above 174. That's obviously what we're all saying, right? 174 clears, breakout, retest, upside trade. But to me, this is one potential trade today. But the second potential trade I have today in NVIDIA is just simply a 171 pullback long, okay? Because if we do pull back there, that's where there is demand below. So if you're watching for trades in NVIDIA today, it's going to be either a pullback to 171 or a break and hold above 173. And I'll be honest, or 174 rather. And I'll be honest, I will tell you guys when I'm watching NVIDIA and when I think it's just kind of floating. And right now, I think NVIDIA is just floating. I don't think it's really presenting much opportunity. I think this is a chart we should mostly stay away from unless we see it somehow set up something really beautiful off one of these levels, okay? So again, I'm just being transparent, right? If it does clear 174, sure, there is some more upside here. We get the PDM move, right? And we can look for upside trades. If we pull back to 171 and we see it set up a long entry, then of course we can trade it. But this is not a trade that I'm watching intensively. I'm not watching it. I'm not focusing on this today, right? What I'd be focusing on today would be mostly an Amazon and an Apple. Those are names I would focus on today's session. But NVIDIA, let's see what we can do here. But watch 174, 171, okay? AMD. Now, AMD is something you could watch, right? Now, AMD has some very clear levels. Now, yesterday on live, I talked about the 162 retest. It worked out really well. I didn't trade this, right? But it worked out really well. Now, today's session, if you're watching anything on AMD, I think you should keep an eye at this 162 area here in AMD. The reason why I'm saying that is because you have a beautiful high here, the bull flag high here, 162. And if we can clear, which we've already done that, we've already cleared 162. At this point, I would look for a very similar to move to what we were talking about in Amazon, right? Big excitement move higher. At this point, I would look for a pullback long to my 162 area for a long entry. That's all I'd be watching today's session. Pullback long today, 162, big level. Let's keep an eye on this today's session, okay? 162 pullback long. Moving on. If we do lose 162, then I think we pull back to 160. If you lose 160, then this is a dead chart. If you lose 160, this is the most important level here. If you lose 160, then we can't go long in AMD anymore because it's probably going to go back to 156, and this is going to be a short entry, right? Because it's failing the bull flag, and we can look for shorts all the way back into 156, even back into 152, 153, right? So again, if you're watching anything here on AMD, it's level 1 here, 162 for your first demand bounce, or level 2, it's going to be that 160 area as your second demand bounce, right? That's all I have here on AMD today, okay? TSM, I mean, 238 has been so important, right? We spoke about 238 being the most important level, and you guys saw 238 failed on Tuesday. We spoke about this being the best possible long entry on Tuesday pre-market. Tuesday pre-market, we dumped like we've never seen before, right? 238 dumped. We've seen a beautiful downside move to 232. Then we reclaimed on Wednesday's session. And what did we do on Thursday? I mean, this was a trade that you could have traded. You could have watched it. You could have seen it. You could have had alerts set there. And look what it did here at 238 on Thursday's session. If there's been any sort of argument for why we trade levels, it's look at this chart right now, right? Look at the beautiful big breakout on Wednesday's session after reclaiming, pull back to 238, retention here at 238, little confirmation candle here at 238, upside trade. Now today's session on TSM, again, it's simply about 238, but I would also trade this above 244. Because if you do clear above 244, I think we see a nice pushback into our bull flag highs here, 249. In fact, I will be focusing mostly on this today. Can we clear above this 244 level today's session? If we do, upside trade back into 249. That's all I have today here on TSM. SMH. So on the SMH chart, we are getting impacted by some downside, okay? The reason why I'm saying that is because we were seeing a little bit of some heaviness on the SMH this morning, and it's not unusual, but you do see a little bit of a potential head and shoulder here, right? It's again, for your head and shoulders traders, you're probably laughing at me right now because this is not a beautiful head and shoulders, but it is there, right? You see it, it is there. If you are watching the SMH today's session, you must be aware of a potential head and shoulders, right? You are seeing names like NVIDIA kind of floating around, AMD strong, Intel weak. This is a bit concerning. And I don't know if I don't know what we're going to do yet here in SMH. If we can close above 288 and build up 288, then we are good and we don't need to be worried about the head and shoulders anymore. But right now we have some head and shoulders risk here on the SMH chart. If you do clear above 288, we no longer have that risk, and we can see upside back on this. But for now, be careful of this being a potential head and shoulders. Again, we have demand below here at 283. If we can hold 283 and do this and reclaim 288, then yes, we're fine. No head and shoulders risk, and we can go back in highs here, right? So again, be careful here in SMH. Just watch the head and shoulders formation, okay? INTC downside, you're seeing here INTC, bad earnings, right? Very bad earnings. It's just back in the gutter again. I don't have any levels here in INTC. I'm not even going to go over it, but I just want to show you the chart so you understand what's going on here. Why the semis are a little bit weaker today is mostly because of INTC, okay? Moving on, let's go over some other names. Meta. On the Meta chart, Meta Shmeta. On the Meta chart, 717. 717. That's all I have today here in Meta, okay? If you traded Meta yesterday, I mean, it just was difficult, right? You saw some holds there at 717, some holds 717, some holds 717, but it wasn't so clear. And I think Meta, more clarity than ever, right? More clarity than we have ever needed is the fact that the chart's a little consolidated, right? I think at this point here in Meta, if you're going to be long on Meta, it's simply just holding 717 and looking for an upside trade back at 725. That could be your first trade here, but I don't see a trade here. So I'm probably going to leave this alone. I have big supply here at 725. I have a big demand below here at 717. If we lose 717, then we go back down to 710 and 705. If we hold 717, then we go back into 725. Again, I keep saying the same numbers. It's kind of giving me a headache here. So I'm going to move on. I'm going to get out of Meta before it gives me an aneurysm. So looking at the chat now, guys. Looking at the chat. Again, people are saying Meta is gold at the right levels. Yeah, Meta is gold at the right levels, right? But today's session, I think it's just simply about this demand right here. That's all it's about. If we're holding it, then you're fine. Look for upside, okay? Reading the chat. CNC, I don't know what this chart is. Big downside, big upside. Probably bullish, right? A little bit of a whim-wham, right? Whim-wham, right? At this point, you're probably looking to see, can this build above that 30 area? If it can build above 30, that's going to be a beautiful squeezer of a trade. If it can clear 30, upside the market back into 33, right? That's all I have here on this chart. Demand below now produced here at 22.3. If you zoom out to daily timeframes, weekly timeframes, we are just sitting, we are actually maintaining some big demands here on the weekly time frame. 25 to 26 is a big weekly demand here on this chart, and that's why you're seeing a little bit of some reversion here on the CNC chart, right? So look to see, can it build above 30, right? But big demand below here at 26.4 to 26, okay? So we are moving on, and we are going to move on fast. Netflix demand below 1,165. I spoke about this before. I think when Mike and I were talking about Netflix, my level here was 1,165. Today's session simply just 1,165. Okay, that's all we have here on Netflix's chart. Okay, Tesla yesterday, some downside yesterday following earnings, right? We had some bad earnings on Wednesday's session, downside back into that 310 area. 310 sold off. We broke down on 310, right? And if you look at the chart yesterday, under 310 was actually quite beautiful. 310 you can see is definitely the level it should be, right? Look at the failure under 310. Big failure 310. Downside, retest 310, big more downside, right? So today's session is simply about 310. If we are above 310, we're bullish. If we are below 310, we're bearish. Right now, we are under 310, so be careful here, right? Under 310 is technically a little bit of a problematic area. Where do we move to? If we are under 310, we should move back into 290, okay? 290 is the next big level. So my expectations here on this chart is pop and fade, right, to 310, downside back to 290, right? That would be my sort of most probable scenario here on this Tesla chart. If we do reclaim that 310 area, this is a long entry. You can look for longs back in 320 and change, right? That's it. That's all I have here on this Tesla chart, either above 310 or below 310. That's what's going to define the sentiment here on Tesla's chart, okay? Moving on, Robinhood, HOOD, 102 is your big level. That's all I have to say here in Robinhood. BULL, bull. Bull, we have big supply here, 18.8. I spoke about that before. We're rejecting supply here at this point, right? You'd expect us to pull back to 14.5. 14.5 has to hold. If it holds, we're bullish, we're fine. There's no worries, right? 14.5 is your big level. If we're holding 14.5, you're bullish. If we can reclaim this 18.8 level, right, the previous highs over here, then you could rip in this chart and you can rip back into almost the all-time highs, almost back into that IPO area here in Bull. So again, watch for 19, really 19, 18.8, 19 to reclaim. If that happens, big upside here in BULL. Guys, thank you all for joining in. I appreciate everybody. We have 550 likes here, which is much appreciated. So I want to just give you guys a big thank you for that. I know I kind of was yelling for some likes today, so it's much appreciated. Guys, thank you all for joining in. Let's have a nice Friday session. Let's finish off the week strong. And I'll see you guys all for live trading. Bye, guys.